Today is the second day on solving, and we have two goals today. Can you solve equations with a variable on each side? And can you solve equations that have distributive property? So let's start with a warm-up. Multiply each of the following. So we have 2 times 3, you should know that's 6. Negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. Let me use a different color here actually. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6, and negative 2 times negative 3 is 6. So what do you notice about this? What gives you a positive answer? What gives you a negative answer? And if you notice, if you have one negative and one positive, so if you have an odd amount of negative numbers, your answer will be negative. If you have two even numbers, I'm sorry, if you have two of the same sign, so a positive times a positive, you get a positive answer. And a negative times a negative gives you a positive. So if you have an even amount of negatives, it will give you a positive. And if you have an odd amount of negatives, it'll give you a negative answer. So students often ask, what does this equal, positive or negative? And so you should know a positive times a positive is a positive. A positive times a negative is a negative. A negative times a positive is negative, and a negative times a negative is a positive. So if the signs are the same, it's positive, and if the signs are different, your answer will be negative when multiplying. Again, our goals today, can you solve equations with variables on both sides? Can you solve equations with distributive property? When there are variables on each side of the equation, you do want to combine like terms on each side. You want to get rid of the variable on one side. It's usually easier to get rid of the smaller one, but it doesn't matter which one you get rid of. And you want to use opposite order of operations to get the variable by itself, which is what we practiced yesterday. So let's do an example. Here this has variables on each side. So the first step is combine like terms, and we can't do that because each of the terms on each side has an x and no x. So then the next step is to get rid of the variable on one of the sides, and it's usually easier to get rid of the smaller one. So what's smaller, a negative 2x or an x? Well, that would be a negative 2x. And how do you get rid of a negative 2x? Well, it's the opposite of subtracting. It's adding. So we're going to add 2x to each side. We get 4 equals 3x minus 14. Our goal is to get x by itself now, so we're going to use opposite order of operations. We have multiplying, we have subtracting. We're going to get rid of subtracting first by adding 14 to each side. We got 18 equals 3x. Get rid of the multiplying by dividing. So divide by 3, and x will be 6. To check our answer, we can plug in 4 minus 2 times 6. You want to see, does that equal 6 minus 14? Well, we have 4 minus 12. Does that equal 6 minus 14? 4 minus 12 is negative 8, and 6 minus 14 is negative 8. So you can check your answer by plugging in and making sure both sides are equal. All right, let's try another one. This one, again, there's a variable on each side, but we can combine like terms first. So let's do that. Let's combine our 10 and our 2. We get 12. And we are going to combine our x's. We have negative 3x plus 5x, which is like 5 minus 3. That would give us positive 2x, and this equals negative 8 plus 8x. Now we want to get rid of the variable on one of the sides. I like to get rid of the smaller one. So here I'm going to get rid of the 2x by subtracting 2x from each side. We got 12 equals negative 8, and then if we add 8x minus 2x, that's 6x. Use opposite order of operations to solve. So we have a minus 8x and a multiplied by 6. Get rid of the minus 8 first by adding 8 to each side. We got 20 equals 6x. Divide by 6. And this will be a fraction answer. You can leave it as 20 over 6. You can reduce the fraction, or we can get the decimal answer. 20 divided by 6 is 3.3 repeating, or 3 1/3. So you can leave your answer like this. You could notice that we could divide each of these by 2, and that would give us 10 over 3. So here's another way to write that answer, 10 divided by 3, or you could leave it 20 over 6. Okay, let's take a look at a few more, and then we're going to look at when we have parentheses on each side. Okay, another one where we can combine like terms first. So let's do that. We have 3 minus a 3, that's 0, but we still have a negative 2t. And we have a 10 plus a 2, so that would give us 12 plus 2t. Let's get rid of the smaller t, which is a minus 2t. I'm going to add 2t to each side. This is not the only way to solve. You could also subtract 2t from each side. So we get 12 plus 4t equals 0. We want to get t by itself, so let's get rid of the 12 first by subtracting it. We get negative 12 equals 4t. And last step, to get rid of the 4, which is being multiplied by the t, we're going to divide each side by 4. So we get t equals, and we have a negative divided by a positive, so it's the same rule as like with multiplying. If you have a negative and a positive, your answer is negative. And you can plug in your answer to check. Let's do one more. Here we can't combine like terms. We have x's and a number on each side. So let's add x to each side first, because minus x is the smaller x. We have 4 x's plus 1 equals 36. Subtract 1 from each side. We got 4x equals 35. To get rid of the 4, it's being multiplied, so we're going to divide each side by 4. And our answer, if we change it to, you can leave it as a fraction, but the answer is a decimal, is 8.75. To get that, we take 35 divided by 4. All right, our second learning target here is, can we solve equations that have parentheses in it? And there's a few ways to do it. I'll show you the most common way, which kids like to distribute. So we'll do that first. Okay, so the first one right here, first step, distribute, spider legs. We're going to multiply. 4 times negative 3x is negative 12x. 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. Now we'll solve just like we solved the other ones. We're going to do opposite order of operations, so we'll add 8 to each side. Negative 12x equals 72. We're going to divide by negative 12. And our answer will be negative 6. Let's try the next one. Again, we'll distribute first. We got 56 equals a negative times a positive is a negative. A negative times a negative is a positive. Let's get rid of the plus 8 first by subtracting 8 from each side. All right, so we got 48 equals negative 8x. We're going to divide each side by negative 8. Whoops. So our answer, again, will be negative 6. And you can plug in your answer and check and make sure that both sides are equal. All right. Last two. Again, we're going to distribute. So we have 25x plus 20. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 4 is 20. Equals negative 30. We're going to subtract 20 from each side. We got 25x equals negative 50. We'll divide each side by 25. So here x will be negative 2. And the last one here, again, with parentheses, you can distribute and multiply. Negative 3 times negative 4 is a positive 12x. Negative 3 times 2 is a negative 6. Equals 18. We will add 6 to each side first. We got 12x equals 24. And then we'll divide by 12. So these are the two types of questions that we're going to practice today in class. And then tomorrow we'll add even more steps to equation solving.